gathered around her because it did ping and it went off and you got this member decapitated. It's probably because you're trying to hide something and make sure certain details don't come out.
Return to Life with Elise starts right now.
Hey guys, sorry about that. Right before I was about to go live on time, my entire screen glitched and then my entire outline turned to like symbols and weird things. So I had to reboot, recover, and figure out what the hell is going on. So I hope you guys can hear me okay. Let me know if you guys have any issues with the audio or the video coming through at any point, just because for some reason my computer is deciding to have a heart attack right now, and I have no idea why. So if you have been following along, I did a quick video earlier today, a quick live where we covered what happened in the first half of the preliminary hearing today in the Barry Morphew case. And so now court is wrapping up in Colorado. And so I wanted to go over what happened in the back half of that hearing once we had returned from recess. So rather than rehashing all of the details, where we left off, you can go back and watch that previous part 1 video. It's a really quick watch. I think it's maybe 25 minutes. You could also do it in like 2 times speed if you want. But in summary, they were going through testimony and through the affidavit and citing different things. And the big takeaways from that were, of course, that there was a spy pen that belonged to Suzanne, and rather than proving on that spy pen recording that Barry had the affair, it conversely actually proved that Suzanne had a 2-year affair. And we go into the details of how many times they saw each other and things of that nature. And I have learned a little bit more about that person she had an affair with just in the last hour or so, and we'll go over that as well. We also heard that there was testimony that Barry's Bobcat, that big machine, wasn't directly tied to the disappearance of Suzanne. Now, is there a technicality to where it's possibly connected to the cover-up? Maybe, but they said so far it's not connected to the disappearance. We also know that there was a man's DNA on the glove box of Suzanne's Range Rover, and they got a hit, and it was a man who was not Barry, but somebody who had 3 prior SA offenses. And lastly, we also heard testimony from Sheila, Suzanne's best friend of over 30 years, and she was saying that the marriage wasn't anything like it seemed. So we're going to jump right in, guys, and if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you do so, because I'm going to do these quick little off-the-cuff videos as these hearings continue over the next few days, and that way if you're subscribed, you'll get notified the second that we go live. All right, so that's where we left off, and again, you can go back and watch that if you need to catch up. So as they come back, Special FBI agent Ken Harris took the stand, and he says that Suzanne was starting to become more and more independent, increasingly so. He also says that she had stated she was waiting until her youngest daughter was out of the house. She thought that Barry was holding money and their daughters over her head to keep control. And as we go through this, you'll see it really begins to illustrate a picture that not only were they in an unhappy marriage, or she was in an unhappy marriage, but she was, I don't know if I want to use the word scared of him, but there was an element of fear in the sense that he was holding several things over her head, such as the relationship she had with her daughters, money, a lot of religious things as well, several things which just, if you've ever been in any sort of relationship like that or friendship like that or have a family member like that, you know that it can make you feel cornered and like there's no way out. As we start going into the text messages that her best friend Sheila received from her, and this is the best friend again of over 30 years, I'm going to read a few of them to just kind of again clearly paint this picture for you. There was a text message from Suzanne first that said, "I'd live in a shack right now. I'm sure he won't make it easy. He's always wanted control." And when Sheila asked Suzanne how she would support herself, she texted her back and said, "I don't know. I just wish he would get fed up with me and let me get out of this marriage." Again, going back to an element of control and really just wanting to have, complete control over the situation, which we also know from the previous video from earlier in today's hearing when she says that he would get angry over what she could and couldn't wear. it's just not good. And it unfortunately gets worse. According to Special Agent Harris, when Suzanne told Sheila that she wanted to leave Barry, he would respond to her by saying things such as, how would you pay for things like your medical bills for cancer? Again, going back and holding money over her head. As I go, I'm just going to continue to kind of jump and pop over here to the chat because I'm in a whole separate tab and I can't see you guys and I can't see the chat, and I want to make sure that audio and video is okay. So I'm just going to quickly pop back and forth. All right. So then Suzanne had communicated with Sheila that she was completely done with their marriage. And that was just around this time when all of this had happened, and even some of the months leading up to it. So Agent Harris also mentioned that Sheila told him back in 2018, Barry had allegedly pushed Suzanne into a closet and put a gun to her head, to his head, and asked her if that's what she wanted. So not only a level of controlling behavior, holding money over her head, controlling what she wears, holding the girls over her head, but now flipping it around, and I don't know if gaslighting is the correct term, possibly, but basically then pinning her in a closet, putting the gun to his own head, being like, is this what you want? To guilt her. And just, I've unfortunately seen so many situations like this, too many to count, unfortunately. And it's just all of these pieces, just at least for me, and tell me what you guys think in chat, start to illustrate a pretty clear picture as to what was happening in that marriage behind closed doors. In another text message from Suzanne, she tells Sheila, it's Jekyll and Hyde again. He and Mal were together last night, probably switching it on when he talks to her. I feel like I'm crazy. I just had a conversation with him, pretty much told him I can't be healthy and stay in this. And this message, and I'm sure there are several more that are going to come out in Discovery and that we're going to hear about as things continue. But this message for me really began to lay the foundation of, she made it known to him that she was starting to pull away, because and then there's some big movements, which we'll talk about here in a minute, where it clearly does state that, but where she says, I can't be healthy and stay in this, as though she's laying the groundwork to leave him. And I would imagine that he's starting to sense that she's beginning to pull away. She also tells Sheila that he threw the 70 by 7 at me. Now, I'm not extremely religious, but apparently this is a scripture reference, and how many times they should forgive somebody else. So again, holding religion over her head, finances over her head, all of these things. And she said he was always using scripture when it's convenient. It's just awful. And she continues in her messages saying he won't speak of divorce, begging for another chance. I'm so torn, but in my heart, I know who he is. And I told him I'm done. I need peace. So he senses she's pulling away. She's then very vocal that she's pulling away. He's trying to hold on to her with any means necessary, holding religion over her head, finances over her head, the children over her head, then guilting her by throwing her in a closet and holding his weapon to his own head, saying, is this what you want? Is this what you want? And now we're going to quickly pause on here and start talking about her relationship with Jeff. And as I mentioned, we learned a little bit more about Jeff, and I want to make sure I say this exactly right, but it does in fact appear he is married. I don't know if he still is or what just was, and I believe he has 6 children. So a lot of the conversation that we had earlier in the live was, why wouldn't he have come forward when she first went missing? Why would he be keeping it a secret? Because remember, he didn't go to law enforcement willingly. It wasn't until they discovered that she was having an affair that they tracked him down. And a lot of people were suggesting perhaps it was because he's married. And he was in fact married and has 6 children, according to this. Which makes sense. Okay. So Suzanne at first had reached out to Jeff on Facebook. She then suggested using Voxer to communicate. Then they switched to talking on the phone. They also at one point used LinkedIn to message back and forth, and WhatsApp. And I personally have never heard of using LinkedIn as a means to cheating and secret messaging. I've of course heard of WhatsApp. I've also heard of Voxer. I think that's how you say it. And Viber, I think, as well. But I had never heard of LinkedIn. But they used several different methods to communicate in addition to talking on the phone. Now, Barry had told investigators that he didn't know about an affair that she was having. which doesn't seem entirely true. And we're going to get to why in just a minute. Suzanne had told Sheila that she would be concerned with Barry's reaction if Sheila sent the spy pen to her house, because that's when Suzanne she wanted to get that spy pen. She wanted to get recordings because she was trying to catch Barry in an affair, allegedly. And so she says that she didn't want to be worried and have to deal with Barry's reaction if he saw that the spy pen came to her house. So she said, wait until the trip where I go to Florida, give it to me then. But Suzanne never told Sheila that she used it, apparently. And that's according to Sheila. And the spy pen wasn't found until June 2nd, several weeks after she was reported missing. And it was found in Suzanne's closet. On that pen, they learned about Jeff from a conversation that was recorded from back in February 2020, a few months before her disappearance. But at that time, they didn't know who Jeff was. Now, I have on the thumbnail of this video what the spy pen looks like, but I'll show you. It looks like a regular pen, like this. It can be plugged in. You can download the audio. It activates when voices are heard. And when they found it, there were 11 deleted files and 11 saved files. Now, the FBI agent Ken Harris believes that the files were deleted by Suzanne, and he was able to recover 2 of the files that had been deleted. And then 2 other files he said he couldn't remember, and he couldn't recall what was on those. Sorry, guys, I just keep wanting to go back and forth to make sure my everything's still working since I'm having such issues, apparently. So as we know, their relationship, whatever it was, went on for approximately 2 years. And on November 26, 2018, so well before she disappeared, there were 7 calls between Suzanne and Jeff that totaled to 4 hours in total. And you know what, let me just look actually while I have my phone here on my calendar, because I'm wondering, was November 26th in 2018 Thanksgiving? Let me see. No, it looks like it was the Monday after Thanksgiving. Yeah, it was the Monday after Thanksgiving. I was just curious. So they talked for 4 hours in total between 7 calls that day. The next day, she texted Sheila saying that she had a tough talk with Barry, but she still hadn't mentioned to Sheila this new relationship with Jeff, which I don't think is that out of the normal, because we know that she didn't tell anybody about this relationship with Jeff, but she did say that she had a tough talk with Barry. So I wonder again if this was around the time and when she started laying the groundwork for her unhappiness and potentially leaving him. According to Barry's attorney, Iris Eiton, and I hope I'm saying that right, Jeff and Suzanne spoke 26 times between January 4th and January 11th of 2019. And when they were looking at phone records to confirm, he said that it was 19, but he needed to reread it and that he didn't have the exact data, but it was approximately 26 times within that week, the first week of January 2019, 1 year ahead of when Suzanne went missing. So clearly this relationship was beginning, whatever the context was of this relationship, whether it was a friendship, a physical affair, whatever it was beginning to get pretty serious, to where they were talking frequently enough and for long enough periods of time to where there was a level of intimacy. So, go back over here. So as they were talking throughout 2019, one of Jeff's daughters found out about him speaking with Suzanne and told her older brothers and uncles. Now remember, he's married and has 6 children. She had used her dad's phone to order pizza and then she discovered the messages from Suzanne. So Suzanne and Jeff paused their relationship for a while, but then they began communicating again Christmas 2019. Now the dates and the timestamps aren't 100% clear here. It was sometime between mid to end January of 2019 and December of 2019, almost a full year, in which one of his daughters discovered that there was this affair or this exchange of communication happening. So much so that they paused communicating and then reignited everything in December of 2019. And this is when things really begin to ramp up between the two of them, and this is 5 months before Suzanne is reported missing. So Jeff had told Suzanne allegedly that Ecuador is a cheap place to live with good health care. So on December 27th of 2019, Suzanne's iCloud account discovered that she was researching language schools in Ecuador, possibly trying to start over, to have a new life, possibly a new life with Jeff, and to get out of Barry's clutches. Suzanne had planned a trip to New Orleans in February and asked Jeff if he would like to meet her there. And she said to him, maybe we are in the clear for Valentine's Day. Barry won't be around then. And this was heard on one of the recordings. And he says to her, you are the sweetest thing. She says to him, you are the sweetest thing I've ever known. Was just enthralled with this man, apparently. And we'll talk more about that because they actually do talk about marriage together. And we're going to get there in just a minute. She tells him she cannot live her life without him in it. And Jeff allegedly left a message to Suzanne also saying, baby, you are a sweetheart. This boy craves you, everything about you. Special Agent Harris said that Suzanne and Jeff were calling each other soulmates and were talking like lovers. And Barry's attorney asked if they had sent nude photos to one another, and FBI Agent Harris said yes, they did. Also, according to FBI Agent Harris, it was Jeff that got Suzanne into mountain biking as well as drinking IPA. And he just again reiterated that they talk like lovers do. So let me just take a quick pause here. Clearly a relationship, exchanging nudes, so it's not just platonic, saying, how, obsessed they are with each other and how they want each other in their lives. And this was in those months right before her disappearance. And what I find pretty interesting too is that the FBI agent testifies that Jeff is the one who got Suzanne into mountain biking. Could that be why, if this story is fictitious, and I'm just throwing it out there, hypothetically, if the story of her going for that mountain bike ride that day is made up and it's an elaborate story and it never really happened, if it was at the hands of Barry's, could that be some, psychology piece to where he knows that biking was introduced to her from this guy and that's going to be her ultimate demise? It just, for me at least, it kind of got the wheels turning there, So Jeff and Suzanne would also message each other on LinkedIn, like I mentioned. And Jeff said on May 6th, just a couple of days before Suzanne's disappearance, I know these next few days were going to be rough. They also sent pictures to each other. So that message is pretty loaded, to me at least. And tell me what you think, because that is 4 days before Suzanne goes missing. And he says, I know these next few days were going to be rough. Was Suzanne planning on leaving Barry? Was she planning on telling him? Because he's saying as a precursor, hey, I know the next couple of days are going to suck and it's going to be hard. And they were sending pictures. So I'm curious as to, is that a prelude to what was about to come? 2 days before Suzanne was reported missing, she and Jeff also were texting romantically again. And on the morning of May 9th, the day before she disappeared, could be the day she did disappear. It was the day before she was reported missing. She texted, we need to be husband and wife. And he had also said earlier in those messages, you look great in biking gear. You need to be my wife. And then on Friday, May 9th, she says, we need to be husband and wife. He responds and he's like, sorry, my gang is home. And the texts stop. And that was the last communication. And that was at 2:11 on May 9th. And that was via LinkedIn. Now, I just want to throw out that it's a pretty hefty coincidence, in my opinion, that she's texting her lover on the side, who she's now had a 2-year-long exchange with and rapport with, that we need to be married, and he's exchanging similar sentiments. And within hours, she goes missing. And we're going to talk about why I think, and what else was found. So, as I mentioned, that last exchange was via LinkedIn. And according to Ken Harris, the FBI agent, Suzanne wanted to be married to Jeff. Jeff got rid of his LinkedIn account, and he learned of Suzanne's disappearance. Summer Wells is on my mind too. He learned of Suzanne's disappearance on May 12th when somebody sent him a link. Now, my question earlier was, why didn't he come forward? Now, and hear me out here. I understand that he was married and had 6 children, but he was sent 2 days later after she was reported missing a link that she was missing. Now, he had told her just a few days prior, you need to be my wife. And she told him, I want you to be my husband. Clearly, there was a love there. I don't think that was manufactured in any way. So if the woman you love, if you find out 2 days later that she's missing, when you know she's about to have a rough patch of a few days, why aren't you raising a red flag to that? And I get it that there might be certain restrictions holding you back and your family and your children, but it sounds as though, and we never know what somebody's true intentions are, but it would sound as though he was contemplating leaving his wife because he was saying, you need to be my wife to Suzanne. So if that were even a possibility in the corner of his mind, and then he hears that this woman he does love, who he wants to pursue, is gone, like, why are you still staying quiet? There's something that isn't sitting right here. And I again, I don't want to suggest at all that he's involved in any way, because I don't think he is. And I'll explain why here too in just a second, based on his tower data and everything that was pinning that day. But I don't like that. I don't like that at all. It's selfish and I don't know, whatever. I don't like it. So Barry's attorney says Suzanne's secret spy pen led investigators to Suzanne's secret affair. And it was reported that this remark was sent kind of in a snide way, as though it somehow damages her. Like, oh, her secret spy pen that she was going to use against Barry actually led us to her secret life and her secret affair. But in reality, it may be the very thing that proves motive in all of this. So it's great that they found it, because at least now we're getting the whole picture, because Barry never came forward saying that Suzanne was having an affair, and it suggested that he knew about it. So had it not been for this spy pen, which Barry did not know about, would we even know that there was an affair that had taken place? Would we even know that there was a possible motive? Maybe not. So special agents flew to Michigan to interview Jeff when all of this was going down back and when they found out who he was in November of 2020. He hadn't come forward before the investigators found the spy pen, as I had mentioned. He claimed his phone had been destroyed shortly after Suzanne went missing. He deleted all of the secret accounts after she went missing on WhatsApp. Now, the deleting the secret accounts, I can get on board with. I get that. I wish that he had come forward and he spoke up about everything, but if the whole point was to protect his marriage and his children and all of that, I understand why he would delete WhatsApp, the messages, all that, to kind of wipe it clean. However, saying that his phone had been destroyed shortly after she went missing also doesn't sit right with me, guys. And again, I don't know. Like, tell me what you guys think. I really want to know what you guys think. So throw it in the chat, or if you're watching this after the fact and it's not live, throw it in the comments. I want to know what you make of all that. The fact that he didn't come forward to law enforcement. Now his phone is magically destroyed. I don't know. Call it a woman's intuition. Something just doesn't feel right here. Suzanne also had deleted messages on WhatsApp as well during their relationship, which also, again, is no surprise. If you're cheating and you're secret messaging, you're probably, if you're smart at least, deleting as you go. Hint, hint, if you're cheating and you're watching this, you should probably delete messages as you go. But first of all, don't cheat. The phone that Jeff had on May 9th and 10th, he said he didn't have anymore and that he had deleted all of his accounts. And he claimed that the reason why is because he did not want Suzanne's legacy to be that she had an affair with this guy. And he also wanted to protect himself too. Legacy is one thing, but possibly saving a woman's life and bringing justice to her is another. So I'm not liking that, Jeff. I'm not liking that. You should have done right by Suzanne. In a recording of Jeff with the investigators, he says, I don't have the phone anymore. It was a company phone and has been replaced. And they couldn't really hear the rest of the recording. It was said that there were some technical difficulties. They did say, though, that on May 10th, Jeff's phone was pinging off Michigan towers. Now, that's a 20-minute drive from Colorado, approximately, and a 3-hour flight. So I highly doubt that this guy's involved in any way. That's just my personal opinion. Do I think that his character is a little crappy? Sure. Do I wish that he would have handled things differently? Of course. But, I mean, he was pinging 20 hours away, 3-hour flight. I don't see the connection that he could be involved. Thank you, Chrissy, so much for the super sticker. And I know we had some new members and some super chats earlier today, so I'm going to go back and try to get those. I'm so sorry. I know I should have called that out at the beginning, and I totally suck. I think one was from Michelle Lambert, and the other new member was Baby something, but thank you, guys. I appreciate the super chats, the super stickers, and the support. Okay, So, FBI agent Harris was looking through the reports of the conversation with Jeff that investigators had. And Jeff had mentioned that Suzanne told him that Barry had seen some of the messages and that they needed to switch communication apps. And Barry's attorney said that she never heard it on any of the recordings. I find this interesting because this right here is the statement that would open the door to motive, Barry knowing about those messages. And it does make sense that he possibly did discover them, and with Suzanne saying she had to switch communication methods because we know they had communicated through Voxer, WhatsApp, LinkedIn, Facebook, all of these different things. So if he discovered one, time to move along to the next. Why fix it if it's broken? If it's broken, you got to fix it and you got to get a new one. And we know she did get a new one several times. So that I think is very interesting. So Jeff says Suzanne had told him that Barry had seen some of those messages. And he continues to say she was worried. What if Barry looks up records? He had no idea that we had talked to each other. So had he looked up records, he would automatically know that something was fishy. But then in another piece of the testimony, Jeff says that he didn't believe Barry knew about him. And he says, if he knew about me, he would have came after me. I just don't think that he knew Suzanne and I were together. So he's saying he didn't think Barry knew, but he's also then kind of talking out of both sides of his mouth because he's saying, but Suzanne told me he did know and that he did stumble across messages. Or maybe it's that he didn't know the extent of what was going on, but this right here, in my opinion at least, starts to open the door to motive. Investigators never, here's another piece of it. Yes. So investigators never found Suzanne's phone or the charger that she leaves plugged in next to her bed. So investigators had what was backed up on the iCloud as well as phone records from the phone company. And Barry's attorney, Iris, asked if Suzanne had a SIM card, and FBI agent Harris says no. So where was her phone? And here's where my mind starts going. Could Barry have gotten rid of her phone to destroy evidence of the affair so that there wouldn't be a motive? Because think about it. If he saw these messages like she is saying that he did, and he knew that she was having an affair, even if hypothetically the affair had already ended, he would have told the police about the affair when Suzanne went missing so they could investigate Jeff as a possible suspect. But he wanted to keep that affair hidden for some reason. Why? I don't believe it was to protect his daughters, but I think it was to selfishly protect himself. Because if that affair was made public, motive would automatically be attached to this. And it's my belief at least, that he didn't want there to be a motive as to why he could be involved. So he had to wipe clean any trace of any affair ever happening, which maybe that's why he was so arrogant over the next several months and thought he got away with everything, because Jeff wasn't coming forward either. So here he's thinking, I got rid of the evidence. He's not coming forward, which personally, I'd be scared to death that person would come forward. Like, what are you talking about? But maybe he thought everything was working out in his favor. And maybe that's why he was so arrogant. There's a lot of suggestions out there that because of the bike being placed and found, and because of the Ecuador searches and all these things, that Suzanne is pulling a Gone Girl. And if you're not familiar with Gone Girl, you got to crawl out under the rock you're living and you got to watch it. You got to read it. First of all, it's a great book. The movie's kind of whack in my opinion compared to the book, but basically it's about a woman who sets up her husband for her murder and has left. And so there's a lot of conversation now saying, hey, well, based on all of this evidence that they ruled out the bobcat, the DNA, the affair, the placed bike, no body. Oh, there goes my camera. See, I knew that was going to happen. Hold on. It suggested that perhaps this was an elaborate plan of Suzanne's, and that she's just living in Ecuador and she was planning to resurface and talk to her daughters after enough time had passed. Based on what I've heard of her, I don't quite believe this is true. Could she keep secrets? Absolutely, but I think we're stretching here. I definitely think we're stretching here. So, in my opinion at least, the bottom line is that law enforcement had charged Barry with first-degree murder in not only a very high-profile case, but a case in which there still has not been a body recovered. So for me, at least, there is no doubt in my mind that the evidence they have against him will be plenty to convict, because to go after somebody with first degree in a case with it's so high profile and with no body, you better have a lot of evidence to back that up. We're going to, of course, learn about that more in the coming days, weeks, and months to come. So I'm going to keep you guys updated with all of that. Let me go to the chat for a little bit and answer some of your questions because I know I have been lagging. I agree with you, Betty. I don't think any sort of Gone Girl was pulled at all. I think that he found out about the affair. He was mad. We already know that the precursors leading up to it of him being controlling, holding the finances over her head, then the guilt trip with the gun, all of these things. It's just more cards are stacked against him than in his favor, at least to me when I look at everything. I agree too, because remember, and Scottish Girl is saying, I don't think that she would have stayed away from her daughters just to set him up. It doesn't seem right. And I agree with you, because remember, in one of those text messages to Sheila, her best friend of 30 years, she says how she was waiting for her last daughter to be out of the house, or she wanted to be more independent and she was waiting until her youngest daughter was out of the house. If she was going to leave her kids anyway, it wouldn't matter if they were out of the house or not. You know what I mean? Donalina saying Barry is exactly the kind of guy who says, no one else will have my wife. I agree. Let me go back up here and just kind of. So Phoebe, you're saying that you think the defense will say Suzanne moved to Ecuador and is still alive. I agree. And I think that the defense is already beginning to tee up that the majority of the evidence that has so far been disclosed, at least, is more circumstantial. And that, I mean, as I mentioned in my earlier stream, it seems as though there are a few things that are pointing to reasonable doubt. I'm not, regardless where I sit on it, that's just the truth of the matter. And the fact of the matter is today was day one. So we're going to learn so much more over the next few days, over the next few weeks, months, all of these things as more information surfaces, as affidavits are released and actually made public. And so I truthfully don't believe that they would have charged him if they didn't have enough evidence. That's just my belief, because that's a big move. KK, thank you for the super chat. Could he have had programs on her phone, programs that remember words that were written or which websites were visited? P.S. You're looking gorgeous. Thank you. Absolutely. They haven't yet disclosed that any programs were found because, again, they don't even have her phone. And I don't think that you can necessarily determine what software is on a phone through the cloud. You might be able to. I'm not entirely sure. But it's absolutely possible. But again, remember, she also directly told Jeff he came across some of our messages, and that's why we have to switch communication methods and go to a different app. Hazelnut, Barry wouldn't want anyone to know that Suzanne was rejecting him. His ego couldn't take that, in my opinion. I agree. Tina, you're saying, you know how easy it is to clone your wife's phone? Easy. See, I don't know how to clone a phone. Kind of wish I did, but I don't. But I'm sure I could figure that out. Betty Smith, if Suzanne was now alive and hiding out in Ecuador, they would have found her by now. In this day and age, come on. I don't even know necessarily if they would have found her by now. I'm sure, probably. But also, her witnessing the turmoil her daughters are going through right now, and they're completely heartbroken. I can't imagine that she would continue to stay away. I just think that is so far-fetched, and I get it. You can't rule any possibility out yet because we haven't heard all the evidence. We haven't heard everything that's in discovery and what's to come. But I personally just find it very, very far-fetched. Once Casey Anthony was let off, I lost faith, so all bets are off. Hopefully they have enough, and hopefully her body is found. I agree. I mean, that was just the worst case of all time. But I'm confident that they do have enough, because to go after somebody for first degree in this high profile of a case, and again with no body, I believe that there is going to be substantial amounts of evidence. Starlet Ware, I honestly believe with all they claim to have on him, he's more than likely guilty. You know what? Let's go ahead and I'm going to just do a quick poll here in the chat, and it's not working. Of course it's not. Oh, here it is. Okay. Let me see. That's not working now. It's all going too fast. Let's see. All right. Well, oh, look, I did that. I did it. I'm telling you, my computer, guys, is like turning on me. It's my enemy today, and I don't know why. Okay, here we go. Type this in. All right, so let's take a minute and you guys can vote on that. Meanwhile, I'm just gonna fan myself and drink some water because I'm literally melting over here. Hmm. 96% of you are saying that you do believe that Barry's guilty. Interesting. Okay. Fair point. Laughs way too loud. You need a don't know option because you're right. There's still a lot that we have to learn. Shelby, she's doing good. We are at the final few weeks, and today she has been giving me a run for my money and twisting and turning and me thinking I'm in labor. But we've got a few weeks left. So hopefully she stays in there and cooks a little longer. So I told you guys what I think. Let me know what you think in the comments below. As I mentioned, there, I believe, is going to be more coming out tomorrow. I think the hearing is continuing. Let me just double check. I believe so. So if you haven't already subscribed, make sure you do so because I'm going to just do these quick little off-the-cuff videos as the updates come through in real time. And if you want to get notified of when that happens, the only way to do so is by being subscribed and turn that notification bell to on. Promise I won't spam you. And then I'll have more like formal put together videos as we like go to trial and when things aren't coming out every day and when it can be more of, one big comprehensive overview. So make sure you haven't subscribed. If you haven't subscribed, you do so and give this video a thumbs up on your way out. Share it where you can. And until the next case, guys, stay safe. All right, bye.